welcome. It is February 26, 2025, and this is just a short webinar just to kind of help for us to talk about our premium content program, which is called Be Insightful. My name is Gary DeHart. I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant. With me here is Murph. Murph is, among many things, he is senior technical editor for Insightful Accountants, been here since day one along with me, and writes a large majority of our content, really curates, if that's the right word, the Top 100 Pro Advisor program for Insightful Accountant, and among many other things. So Murph, thanks for being with us. And we had promoted that Kimberly Noh, I think she really goes by Kim, would be with us as kind of bringing a member perspective, but she had a medical thing she had to deal with today, so she will
Quite
not.
unexpected.
Yeah, unexpected. So she will not be joining us. So you get Murph and myself for the next 25 or so minutes, and the chat is open, or I don't think chat's open. So I think if you want to communicate with us, you have to put it into the Q&A, and we will be monitoring that. And so if, but again, like with anything, be real specific in your question. If you do have a question, don't just say, what did you mean by that, Murph? You just be real specific. Murph, what did you mean? There's palm trees in Oklahoma. So that way, if we don't see your question, or if we're not able to answer your question when you ask it, we'll be able to address it when we get to it. So let's just dive right in. Again, my name's Gary DeHart. I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant, and Murph, technical editor. Two of us will be running you through what we are here to talk about today, and that's our Be Insightful program. Let me, again, like I said, multiple monitors has thrown me off a little bit here. Is that advancing? It's not, is it?
It did not.
This is working earlier. It was working before I shared my screen. I have to stop sharing. Sorry about this. And bring it down to this. One more minute here. Hey, Matt, if you could be prepared, you may have to share your screen if I can't get this to work here. Murph, what are you seeing there, buddy?
I'm seeing nothing.
Nothing? Nothing. All right, let's try it one more time. Here we go. This should
We had a
be.
brief view of Matt, but
All right, I'm going to try this again.
isn't technology wonderful?
I love it. I love it. Oh, here we go. All right. I don't know if Matt did that or if it's me, but either way, that's me, Kim Noh, who's not here, and Murph. And what the Be Insightful program basically,
I'm
this
still
cup.
not seeing it.
Oh, you're still not seeing it?
Nope.
How about can anybody put in the chat if they're seeing it? Because it says I'm sharing my screen.
All I am seeing is you and I.
Let's
Oh,
see. Somebody put
there it is. Okay.
Oh, all right. This person is seeing it advancing. Yeah, Jeff, just put your, if you have anything to say, just drop it into the Q&A and we will work it from there. So thank you. All right. Now I think we are good to go. I think technology is now our friend, at least for the next few minutes. We'll see what happens. But there's a couple things going on in our world. And when I say our world, I'm talking about media. Um, the advancement of AI has impacted how the search engines are dealing with media companies like Insightful Accountant, among others. And basically, you go and you do a search now, what you find is what they want you to see. It's not necessarily what all your options are. If you think even 5 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, if you did a search, your top results were, hey, here's what we think is most relevant to your search. You do a search now, and 9 times out of 10, what you get is the answer. So those answers are being pulled from all the information that we, Insightful Accountant, and other people like us, put on the internet. And so we are media is now being excluded from those search results. Our business is based on, a large part of our business is based on showing up in those search results. That's how people find us. So as Google and the other search engines have made their changes, we also have had to make some changes. But we're also making these changes so that we can also continue to bring a good product to our user base. And so what we have come up with is basically a model that has free content, a model that has free content that requires registration, and then a model that has paid content. And that paid content is really what we're here to discuss. So we're trying to fill this gap of the challenge that the accounting professionals have. Too much information, not enough time. Where do I find good advice quickly? How do I keep my CPEs in check if I need CPEs? And how do I get in touch with somebody who may be a better industry expert at something than I am? And so we have built this program. There we go. Which basically we're curating right now 9 educational tracks. We have a technology track, we have a coaching track, we've got Murph does 2 different tracks, one on app comparisons, one on kind of migration from or to QuickBooks and related products. We've got a marketing track, HR track, automations, and a technology track, and then a growth track. And we we produce webinars and content around these tracks. The webinars are typically once a quarter, sometimes more, sometimes less, but typically about once a quarter, with the goal of putting about 36 of these CPE eligible webinars out in a year in these 9 different categories. Each of these categories, after we present a webinar, we have a follow-up. And that follow-up is either a day or two. Murph sometimes does his a week afterwards, but it's intended and designed to be a time when our members can come in and have not one-on-one time, but group time with the subject matter expert. Murph just did a what was your last app comparison you did, Murph? Was it
Payroll.
payroll? So we did a payroll app comparison back at the end of the year, and pulled a lot of information, built a blue paper around that, and then presented that, and then had carved out the time so he could answer questions that people may have. And what we found, unfortunately, to date, is those sessions aren't being very well attended by the member base. It's
I will
probably,
say though,
yeah.
by the ones that do attend, we get
Hmm.
a lot of great interaction. Uh, People have the opportunity to not only ask a question, but for us to go really in depth into that content.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And that's when we built this, that's really what we thought would be the primary driver, because and we didn't just pull these sessions out of thin air. This is based on what we see in our application process for the top 100, what we've seen in multiple reader surveys, audience surveys over the years, and just anecdotal references, conversations that we have at events and things like that. So these areas are the areas that really seem to be the most either where the most questions reside in an accounting firm or bookkeeping practice, or where people just say, you know what, this isn't my strong suit, but I do need some access to this type of professional or this type of content. So that's how we built what we built. Um, these webinars then that are part of the premium program are placed behind a registration wall. And again, so as a member, you've got full access to all of the archives. You've got full access to all of the blue papers that Murph has built and the other um, premium or paid premium content that we post onto the site. And this is, as long as you're a member. Murph, can you just, we were going to have Kim just kind of talk about it from her perspective, but like I said, she's not here. So we're going to just hop over to let Murph just kind of give a teacher's perspective on it, because that's really what again what these sessions are built
Oh,
for.
and kind of
Yeah,
like you were saying earlier, that now the web is stealing information because, like this morning, we noticed that somebody had prepared a list by asking AI to compile the data on the web, and it compiled the same data out of one of my spreadsheets. Uh, we had 10 apps, and it had seven of those 10, and basically just listed everything that we had listed. Uh, and instead of using the codes, it inserted the words that related to the code. So I, I don't know how it accesses everything it does, but certainly AI is uh, robbing information without paying Peter or
exactly.
Paul. Uh,
Or Gary.
and, yeah, or
Yeah,
Merv.
right.
And so, anyway, we're trying to produce a set of content that is what you all have basically told us is most important to you. And then, in order to further define that, we ask you sometimes some very specific survey questions, or we pull a lot of data, as Gary mentioned, from the top 100 um, application process, and more specifically, the ecosystem section of that. It tells us a lot about the kind of uh, apps y'all are using and the ones that are most used. But then we also try to blend that with those that are new and those that sometimes people just miss because they're not, for example, listed in the QuickBooks Marketplace or the QBO App Store, whatever you want to call it. We also are trying to blend in more data about apps that work not only with QuickBooks, but other integrations like Xero, etc. And so it takes quite a while to compile that because we don't just put the data together, we actually evaluate each of these based on a set of criteria. And so you have to actually take the time to evaluate the apps in order to score those various criteria. What we found thus far is that when our pro advisors told us um, their opinion of our criteria and what they thought, what they felt was most important, and scored each of the criteria itself, we came up to a much higher score than most of the apps that were scoring wind up uh, being rated. And so that kind of concerns me that most of the apps don't meet truly pro advisors' expectations, or at least the
Mm.
expectations of our top 100. Uh, and then, as Gary said, in addition to the kinds of material that we're developing, we've got a great amount of talent. And Gary, go back there to that last slide.
Oh boy, I don't know if I can. Oh, there we go. That one there. There we
You
go.
know, yeah.
Hmm.
And uh, it's, um, there are people on here who are known for their expertise in these subject matters. And when you start looking at how am I going to find out this, that, or the other, well, you've got to look for the best resources you can find. And we've put together essentially the best resources out there. Uh, I mean, you you couldn't get a person better to tell you for any given situation what tech stack you ought to be using, not only for your own practice, but for different kinds of clients that you have. and what they ought to be using or what you ought to be using on their behalf. You can't use one tech stack for everybody. I mean, if you've got a construction client and then you turn around and you've got a law client, you've got uh, a nonprofit client, this, that, or the other, you may have a few apps that are going to all be the same, but then you've got to have some specialization that both you and your client are using to bring in the specific data that they need. And Kelly Parks is the person who can tell you all of that. And then I don't know anybody that knows more about tax than Christine. She just seems to have a grasp on everything about tax, but more specifically, how to deal with a tax practice
You're right.
and what you need. She and I are always in a big debate over what actually differs between practice management and workflow. And so, this next app comparison we're doing is on workflow, which is not the same as practice management, although practice management may include workflow. So, uh, you just got a great series of resources here that um, not only are driving content, but driving webinars for instruction. And then, as I said, the big thing about it is you have this opportunity to follow up. Most people always find that they don't have enough time for questions and answers at the end of a 1 hour webinar. And so everything gets crammed, then you miss questions. Then even if you send in questions, half the time, well, that's not the answer I was expecting, but you don't have a way to go back to it. But these aftermark sessions, uh, they're designed to give you that possibility to really almost, yes, face to face, have a conversation with the presenter and say, but what if this or what if that, or my problem is this, and to get a response. So it's a great learning opportunity.
Yeah. And shout out one more because I know she's on this, but Chris Ponick, who is the coach's corner for us, you know, to hire on that type of service on a regular basis, is thousands of dollars, per year, to work with a coach. And again, all in, if you did the monthly 49 a month, that they get totaled up to, under $600, and you're getting, access to all of this and your, CPE, almost all your CPE for the year. So, Murph, can you just briefly just touch on like your migrations? Because that's another, certainly was a hot topic with
Well, that's the one that
Enterprise
the
Suite.
AI, that's the one the AI copied this morning.
Yeah.
Uh, we we really what we did is we went out and we looked at actually three different levels. This only reflects two, but we went and looked at migrating from Pro, what would be good solutions. And yes, we did include Intuit in that. So you'll find QuickBooks Online included. Migrating from Premier, and then also migrating from essentially enterprise, although it could be Pro or Premier, into an ERP. And so we've done all three of those sessions. Collectively, we've covered about 35 different solutions that we looked at. Now, not all of those are appropriate to Pro, and not all of them are appropriate to Premier, and not all of them obviously would be appropriate to Enterprise. But we looked at all of those. Each one is an individual program, uh, and there is some overlap, but that overlap usually occurs as a result of, for example, Xero offering more than one level of service. So Pro might look at the entry level of Xero, Premier look at the most significant available level of zero. Uh, that, by the way, even included their new inventory functionality at the time, even though it wasn't quite out when we presented it. And, the range of ERPs is everything from Udo or Odoo, I don't know how you pronounce it, but from that solution up to NetSuite and Acumatica, and even on um, Microsoft 365, uh, our Microsoft Dynamics 365, etc. So we covered all of those. You not only get a series of comparison charts that show you all the features and functionalities, they also show you all the pricing variability. They also show you the ranking basis, these 9 criteria that we use across the board. Doesn't matter what kind of app it is, we use the same 9 criteria, and we rank all of those and then score them based on that ranking. Uh, and then you get an in-depth, usually 2, sometimes 2.5 pages of analysis about each one, everything from a broad perspective to right down to how you use it, how you implement it, or how you integrate it, or etc. And so, and I think I said the last one that we did was payroll, but actually the last one we did was backup solutions. And
Mm.
I think a lot of people found out that since there's only been one backup solution listed in the QBO App Store forever. They didn't even know that there were others, and we found 7 others that actually are available, and uh, some of them did much better than than the one that's listed.
Mm.
So you're if you're looking for data, but I have no idea when when the artificial intelligence bots will be stealing that out of our curtained off data. But
Right. Well, so let me just wrap it up on this, and the two tracks you do app comparisons and you do the migrations. Um, would you say, from a practitioner's perspective, um, that in the app comparison, that I could pick up that app comparison and make an educated decision about what app to choose, let's say in payroll?
I think what you really could do, Gary, is you could pick that up and decide based on this, this is the one that I'm going to try myself rather than go try 6 or 7 or 8 others.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't think anybody's going to just automatically say, I'm going to take Smurf's word for it. But I think that certainly what it does is it narrows down what you specifically have to look for. Because I can test it all day, but I can't tell you how it's going to work in your unique environment.
Right. Good point. Now, how about on, say, is it similar with the migrations?
I think so. You know, Unfortunately, I believe that what's happening is a lot of people, especially from Pro, are trying to migrate solely and exclusively to the cheapest thing they can find that is going to absolutely work. And so they're letting price be a primary driver. They aren't necessarily relying on a pro advisor. Uh, they're they're saying, I've got to go find something that my pro advisor doesn't support. And
Mm.
so I think that that price is driving that because when I talk to people, that's all they really want to talk about is what they think they can afford, whether it's going to do the job or not. We're going to actually be supplementing that here in a couple of months with some additional solutions that we've found that may be hit the target for some of those pro users.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's see if just check and see if there's any questions in here, and I'm going to go ahead and advance this. So, so the bottom line, and I don't know, Murph, if you have anything else that you wanted to shout out, but the bottom line, we've kind of laid out, hey, here's what the program is. Right now, you can join for $1, and basically we have to do the dollar because that's what we get charged for the processing fee. But you can join for $1 for the first month, and then it's $49 a month after that. Quit anytime. There's no strings attached, and or you can just join for the whole year, and I think the whole year is $4.99 for the year. Again, the intention of this program is to um, in full disclosure, help us monetize the audience, right? We spend a lot of money creating a lot of content that we give away for free. But we want to monetize the audience by providing great value. And we really see this program as a method for us to provide great value, charge a fair rate, maybe even under market rate for um, content that we're producing. So, Murph, anything in closing?
Well, there was a question about specifically what type of webinars, and all I'll say is that each one of these 9 or 10 individuals is teaching roughly 3 to 4 webinars a year for us. So that's where the 36 hours come from, and or more. And so each of them is specific to that general area. We don't, I don't have a list of all the webinars they're doing because they kind of are driving that based on questions they get from one webinar to the next, kind of helps them drive that or things that come up. So,
Yep. And then one thing we did talk about in the green room, and actually while we wrap this up, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and push that poll question. And it's just if, hey, if you want us to send you information directly on this program, just say yes on that poll. Um, but just while we wrap it up, Murph had mentioned, so right now, some people may have noticed this, some people may not have noticed this, but we're functioning pretty much on two websites. We have insightfulaccountant.com, which is our, the core site that where the content's been since day one. And then well, I guess day one it really was intuitiveaccountant.com, but that's a whole other story. Then we have the second website, which is a HubSpot based website, and that's where the premium and the paid premium content sit. Um, we are in the process of moving and migrating content from the old legacy site over to HubSpot. And you will see us over time having a lot more content that is behind a registration wall. It's still free, but behind a registration wall. And then through that process, will likely increase the amount of content that is behind the paid registration wall as well. Happy to have this discussion with anybody. Shoot me an email, gdhart@insightfulaccountant.com. Happy to hop on a phone call, talk further if you're interested. And then, Murph, was there anything else on our list? I think
I
we
think
may
we
have
pretty well covered it all.
covered everything. We do have, trying to think of what our next event is. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I think it's maybe the first week of March. I don't know. I probably should have had that in front of me. So, but I don't. But you can go to the website and you can see all of our webinars there. Again, that's insightfulaccountant.com. Murph, thank you so much for
Let me
taking 30
just say,
minutes. Yep.
folks,
Yep.
keep keep Kim and her family in your prayers, please. This was quite unexpected today.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for that. And we will be in touch with her. And again, let us know if there's any questions that you may have just around this program. Or actually, one other thing we should shout out here, Murph, is that Murph is always looking for people to collaborate on these app comparisons. And we did e-commerce back in September, October, something like that, where we had three pro advisors researched their favorite app in that e-commerce arena and then helped us present that information. So keep that in
And
mind. You can reach out to
and the
him.
March QB Talks will be back on e-commerce with Teresa Slack being my guest, and she and I are going to review the best of those 10. So
There we go. And that one is free. registration required. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for taking 30 minutes during tax time just to hear a little bit more about this program. Again, happy to answer any questions. And if you said yes on this poll, we'll certainly send you some information directly. Thanks again.